I'm using this under the Fair Use Act, and the reason I want to show you this and do this video is because a friend of mine, Christopher Key, reached out to me and had shown me that one of these talking heads, these misinformation media platforms, had him on his show and was trying to debunk him. Now, unfortunately, and the reason they chose Christopher has a learning disability. Now, it doesn't mean he is ignorant. Christopher Key's actually quite intelligent and knows exactly what he's talking about. But this gentleman, David Pakman, used his platform and used Christopher as a target because he saw that he was an easy target. Now, I have since reached out to Mr. Pakman. Here's one email that I sent him in his platform. And here is the second email that I've sent his platform trying to debate him, asking to come on his show and debate him. And he refuses to debate me because he knows that I will clean the floor with him. He knows that I have the information. And unlike Christopher, I don't have a learning disability. I would do to David Pakman on his own show what he did to Christopher Key, which would be to embarrass him. Now, we're going to listen to some of that video, and I'm going to have a lot of fun at David Pakman's expense and show that Christopher Key was right. He just unfortunately has a learning disability, and it shows that David Pakman takes advantage of people that have learning disabilities. This was the show, May the 16th, 2023, and I compel you to go to that show, find that channel, and leave a comment to David Pakman. Leave a comment on his show, how he should be ashamed of himself for putting out misinformation and targeting disabled people. This is going to be some of the context that was in the show, in the debate between Christopher and David. Listen to it.
May recognize Christopher because he has been in the news over the last year or two for both drinking and injecting urine for reasons that he will certainly tell us about. Christopher, I appreciate
that is completely correct, brother. I trust no one in the mainstream at all. You guys are prostitutes and talking parrots, but go ahead.
Good. So since we're both...
Now, he had pointed that out. Christopher pointed it out, and it's very true. That's all they are, is misinformation, and I'm going to prove that unequivocally.
You begin to drink urine, and do you drink only your own urine, or do you drink other people's as well?
And see his snide little remark? Christopher's going to get the snide remark, be able to have the snide grin after this video.
Mention to my audience, two of the folks that Christopher mentioned, David Avocado Wolf and Martha Christie, are both known medical disinformation purveyors. You can look them up. Christopher and I will disagree about that, and that's okay, Christopher. I just am being clear with my audience. Is that okay?
Completely understood.
Okay.
So he made a point to debunk anybody that Christopher cited. And again, it was easy to perhaps debunk the people that he cited, but he will not be able to debunk the evidence that I'm going to present.
Christopher, let me ask you a different question. Is there any medical science that supports any of what you're saying here? Specific studies you can point to?
Yeah, I sent your co-producer a long list, and anybody out there would get the book, Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie. There is lots.
That book's been widely debunked as disinformation. Let me ask the question a different way. I know you sent Pat a bunch of stuff, but now this is the show, right? The audience doesn't see what you sent Pat. Can you cite a randomized controlled study proving the efficacy of drinking urine?
So that was his agenda, to debunk Christopher's evidence, and he did. He was able to do that, but he will not be able to debunk what I'm going to show, because there is a drug that is well known that has been in use since 1942. It is cow urine. It is urine therapy. The drug is called Premarin. It is hormone replacement urine therapy, and millions of women have been prescribed Premarin urine therapy by their physicians, by medical doctors. This has been used, was developed in 1942, and has been used ever since that date. It's also widely used all over India and around the world. Matter of fact, this is some of the medical uses for urine therapy. This is the company, the largest company in India, medical company in India, and this is what they use: urine therapy to treat leprosy, fevers, peptic ulcers, liver ailments, kidney disorder, asthma, certain allergies. There's so many things that medical doctors globally use urine therapy for. This is some more information about it. This is one of India's largest companies, pharmaceutical companies. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that because I could get it wrong, but widely used, very well known and widely used globally. Also, now again, what they were discussing, what Christopher was discussing was how he was using urine therapy to treat himself for COVID. Now, urine therapy is also used to treat what's called respiratory depression. It happens when the lungs fail to exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen efficiently. Well, incredibly enough, that's exactly what happens when somebody gets COVID. They get respiratory depression, and incredibly enough, that's what's used to treat that. Urine. Imagine that. Imagine that. It's well known, and it's produced by one of the India's largest companies, pharmaceutical companies. That is the name of the company that sells urine-based products that treats many things. Now we're going to cover some of the other things that was being discussed in that interview.
Urine.
Again, I'm dyslexic, I'm LD, I'm ADHD, I'm D and dumber, and that's what's so sad. If I can figure this out, David, why can't you take the time to do your own research and your audience do your own research and understand that the temple that God created, he created it perfectly. You know.
See, that's when, again, David was unfortunately, because he's the type of person that he is, he was basically going after Christopher, and Christopher was pointing out, look, I have a learning disability, can't help it.
And, it's not super.
And he can't. But it does not mean he's not intelligent. Christopher's very intelligent. He just has a learning disability, and David Pakman was using that to his advantage. But again, as I've shown you, he refuses to answer my emails and have me come on and debate him with the absolute evidence that I have. Continue to listen.
It's not super interesting to be like, hey, we're doing a show, but you refuse to cite any of the evidence and tell the audience to Google stuff. What I'm asking is, can you cite a single peer-reviewed study that will tell us what drinking urine will do versus
a single peer-reviewed study? Well, David, I can do you better. I can show you the urine therapy medicine that has been in use since 1942. Premarin. That is the medicine that has been the urine therapy medicine that has been put into practice. Absolute, unequivocal evidence, proof, and fact.
It's not.
And I don't remember the actual citing.
The reason I can't put them up, Christopher, is we didn't find in going through your list anything that would meet the standard of a randomized placebo-controlled urine trial that proved.
I've met the standard, and that's why he won't have me on his show. I've met the standard and have the evidence to prove that it is actually David Pakman that is uneducated and unlearned and a fool. Let's continue to listen.
For the screen right now, but you're saying you don't remember them, but you've been. COVID vaccine goes. You and I don't know if you're familiar with Sherry Tenpenny. Does that name ring a bell to you?
It does.
Okay. You and Sherry and others have been saying that tons of people are going to be dead from the vaccine imminently.
1,000 went out, over 1,000.
Let me just finish the question, Christopher.
On the playing field, and you're not talking about that.
Hold on, Christopher. I have to be able to ask a question. I'm being polite and giving you time. Let me just ask my question. Every time that you and Sherry say this sort of thing, the time frame is always just beyond where we are. With sometimes it's 6 months from now, and now it's been years and everybody's fine, and then it's 2 to 5 years, etc. Why do you think the timing?
So David Pakman is saying Christopher Key had pointed something out, has been pointing something out, and David Pakman is claiming that no, this is not happening. Let's continue to listen.
Why do you think the timing for the mass vaccine death always is just a little bit into the future?
It's not, brother. Have you not seen what's going on with insurance companies around the world? I mean, they're...
So again, Christopher has a difficult time gathering evidence, and that's solely because of his learning disability, and it's very understandable. I don't have the problem gathering evidence, and as a matter of fact, I've decided to get the evidence from a doctor, a well-known doctor, and his YouTube channel that is still up and still available, and the fact that it is still up and still available proves that it is not medical misinformation.
May. Now, I want to be looking at the ongoing excess deaths in the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia today. And we know that this is duplicated, sadly, in all of the sophisticated Western countries. A bit less in Eastern Europe, but in Western Europe, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, Ireland, excess deaths are high and sadly remain high in most areas. But before we do that, I just want to...
Dr. John Campbell, that is his YouTube channel. His channel's been up since the beginning of this thing, and he's recently began covering the excess deaths that are occurring globally.
Before we do that, I just want to show you about the COVID symptoms. Now, the Zoe Symptom Tracker app, or the Zoe Health Studies it's now called, is still monitoring this. So very useful, showing that the symptoms in COVID for the vast majority of cases are...
The Zoe Tracker is what he uses, which is a national verifiable study and very credible. Continue to listen again. 2 different videos, he's covering the same thing.
See that these excess deaths are clearly not caused by COVID. I think we can say that fairly definitively. Now,
and he points out that these excess deaths are not from the virus. They're trying to determine where these excess deaths are coming from, incredibly enough, and why we're seeing such a high rate of excess deaths globally.
Friday the 12th of May now, the excess deaths are carrying on in the United Kingdom, and we've looked at data recently that shows they're also carrying on in other countries around the world.
That's what he's been covering. Why are we having all these excess deaths?
Carrying on in other countries around the world. But we've got some new data released today from the UK, just released this morning, a few hours ago, from the Office for Health Improvement, so national official government data, and sadly that is showing that increased deaths are occurring in all age groups. Improvement, so national, a few hours ago, from the Office for Health Improvement, so national...
The Office for Health Improvement, a national organization, is what he cited. Verifiable, credible, reliable data.
Groups in 2022 and into 2023, sadly. Very little in the mainstream media about this, although we will be giving a glimmer of hope that it's starting to cover this tragedy that's undergoing in many countries. And also the new data.
And he even points out exactly what Christopher Key said, that the mainstream media refuses to cover all the excess deaths that are happening globally.
Welcome to today's talk. It's Monday the 8th of May. Now, I've been a bit concerned about the excess deaths of late in the United Kingdom. So I've looked at this, and I've also done a bit of an international comparison, and we do see that since the start of 2022, when COVID deaths were declining, in most areas at least, in most countries. There's been a sustained amount of excess deaths, more than we would expect based on previous years' averages for the time of year. Now that's 30th of March now. I just wanted to record a very brief video today because I've been looking at the Zoe COVID symptom tracker information from the Zoe Health study that shows that the symptoms from COVID...
How you like that, Mr. Pakman? Now who's the fool?
Welcome.
Who's the fool, Mr.
Friday,
Pakman?
See that before we do May.
Why do you think the timing for the mass vaccine death always is just a little bit into the future?
It's not, brother. Have you not seen what's going on with insurance companies?
Christopher Key was right. David Pakman was wrong and is an absolute proven fool and misinformation propagandist. That is all he is, and now he's been debunked, and this is the rebuttal argument to show him and his audience. And again, this is why he refuses to have me on his show, because I would embarrass him absolutely, unequivocally, with scientific national data and facts and medical studies.